the resonance frequencies of that class. And every substance has also molecular movement patterns, because every substance is comprised of molecules, which means you will also have then molecular movement patterns. This can be measured in molecular spectroscopy. So in molecular spectroscopy, many of you might not know what it is, but maybe you've seen it on TV, because a place where I use that a lot is on those criminology shows on TV. Like you have the CSI, for example, crime scene investigation and programs like that. When they find something that they don't know what it is, they take a swab, they bag it, and then they go to the lab, and then they put this clip of this Q-tip thing into a machine, and then 20 seconds later it pops up on the screen what this is. So you can find out what a substance is based on the molecular movements. And that is because there's always the exact molecular movement patterns related to the exact substance. So you can find out exactly what a substance is. If you want to make a generic drug, so this is what the pharmaceutical industry does to make an identical copy of another drug. They put it in a molecular spectroscopy, then you have the identical recipe, and now you can make a generic that theoretically could be identical. Still, they manage to screw up sometimes, but that's for other reasons. It's not a flaw from a molecular spectroscopy. So these molecular movement patterns, once they are measured, then it will be the same. For that same substance will always have the same molecular movement patterns. So will a virus. A virus is a DNA-based program or RNA-based program. It will always, with the same virus, will always have the same molecular movement patterns until it mutates, which probably is not the case with this COVID-19 situation, because since it is man-made, it's engineered, it's less likely also to mutate. And we have not seen any mutation so far, which also means the probability of this to mutate is far less when we haven't seen it till this point. So that means with the exact molecular movement patterns of that virus, then one can very easily shatter it in a petri dish or in a lab environment, very, very easily, by just creating sound waves or electromagnetic fields or anything that has that exact pattern. But then comes the challenge, how can we then destruct it in the body? Because that's where we need to destruct it. Then we need something that penetrates the body, because otherwise it doesn't hit the viruses in the body. And not only does it have to penetrate the body, it has to penetrate the cells. So there has been a lot of talk about using things with probes that you hold in your hands and this and that, and all these ideas now on YouTube where you use like frequency things and so-called Rife machines. When you send signals through the body and these signals are electromagnetic, they will not go through the cell membranes. They will go around, because around the cells you have what's called interstitial fluid, which is a salt water, and this is very, very conductive. So any signals you will send through the body from one point to another will go through interstitial fluid. It's around the cells, not through the cells. But there's one thing that you can send through the cells, and that is plasma light. So plasma light, the first experiments on that was in the early 30s. And we can actually test how plasma light goes through the body, through the chair, through the wall, through the next wall. In 3 rooms down, we can still measure the plasma light. So this goes through everything. You're actually being exposed to plasma light where we're sitting now, because it's part of the spectrum from the sun, and that particular part goes through the building here, and we're all now being exposed to plasma light. So then you can use that as a medium to get this through the cells. So that's what we're doing, is that we are now involved with a research project about to start up to destruct this with plasma light. We already now have this particular virus measured in molecular spectroscopy, so we have the patterns. We already have the hardware to do it. But of course it needs to be in a controlled setting. So we are now in the drafting process of a huge clinical trial. We already have the funding for it. We already have, I cannot tell who, but it's the right authorities involved with the process. And this is what I believe is the solution to destruct it. And we know also from experience with other viruses, like I mentioned the cytomegalovirus and Epstein-Barr virus, we can easily take them out with this approach. And so there's no reason to believe that we can't do the same with this one. So what my suggestion for a solution basically for this worldwide pandemic is that for most people they should just stay extra healthy. Take this as an incentive to do more for health. Because you won't imagine how many people who actually don't care about their health. That's why disease is so important. Disease is motivation to make changes. If we didn't have disease, like some people say, can you imagine how great it would be with a world without disease? Well, what would then be the incentive for us to do the right choices, to eat right, to do the right lifestyle choices? What would be the incentive? We need disease as an incentive to do things right. And we can take this situation now with the COVID-19 as an incentive to do more for our health, to make sure we have better capacity to deal with these threats that we're being exposed to regularly. But then I mentioned the mortality of this is 0.3 to 0.9%. And you can probably guess who it is that this is fatal for. It's those who don't have capacity to deal with it. Those people who have big challenges with the immune system. Maybe they had an organ transplant and they have to be on immune suppressant medication. Maybe they have AIDS. Maybe there's some other reason. Maybe they just have the world's most horrible lifestyle. So there isn't capacity to deal with it. Maybe they even have some chronic viruses that they're facing, so that there isn't capacity to deal with a new threat. What happens then is that for them it can be very dangerous. And that's why we need also a treatment to help those, so that we don't just accept that, okay, that's their problem. So that's who we're developing the solutions for. But for most people that shouldn't really be necessary. This will pass like a flu. And then we need to develop the treatments for those who cannot have it pass like a flu. Those people who are immune compromised at a severe level. And that is how I think the whole world now should move in that direction to solve this. You just had a sign that said 5 minutes left. Where are we at now? 3 minutes, wow. Can I have a couple of more hours? So, yeah, no, I will be able to run it off also, but I hope that we would have a little bit time also for questions afterwards. So I think that the world now collectively should take this as an opportunity to now start doing more for our health. Because also when it comes to health, so many people for so long, I would say for too long, have looked at health as the opposite of disease. If you don't have a disease, then the health is good. It has even stretched to the point where you can have some diseases and still you feel that everything is fine. So we're setting kind of our idea of what health is moving with our experiences. So many people put in the intake form when they come to one of our clinics that when we ask them to rate their health, and I say it's great. But then when it comes to actually rating what kind of problems they have, then you get this whole list of problems, but they still feel that they're quite healthy. And the other thing here is that it's not just about specific health problems, it's about having extra energy for life also. Life can be so much more. There's so many people who are not sick, but still they come home from work, they're completely shattered, and they might have a family, but they don't have time to play with the kids, or they don't have energy to play with the kids. So they come home, you sit in front of the TV with their legs on the table, the kid wants to do something, and it's like, oh, but mommy or daddy, we're so tired today. And then what you have energy for is to watch something stupid on TV. And then that is life. Life can be so much more. That is not what life is about. Not in my book. Life can be so much more. And then to make it so much more, you need the energy for that. So that's another aspect of health. It's not just avoiding illness, but it's also optimizing beyond that. And that is what health optimizing is about. It's that whole range. So what we specialize in health optimizing is to find out first what is not functioning right in the body, and we measure about 20,000 parameters. Let me tell you, if you go to a doctor and you say, I want to test everything I can, well, not one of our doctors, but I mean another normal doctor,